Harvard was very interested in the papers. I felt the papers should go, at that time, I felt they should go to a historically black college.
Yes.
Particularly Atlanta.
Oh.
Because that's where DuBois spent a lot of his time.
Yes, Atlanta U.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I also knew that taking the papers was going to be very expensive because you had to catalog, index them, and preserve them. I had no idea what the cost was until now. But then when I heard, well, Harvard wasn't, now what I'm telling you is what people tell me.
Yes.
That's one way you can get past this thing. Is that Harvard wanted them, but wasn't willing to take Herbert Aptheker.
Oh.
Because remember, Herbert Aptheker was a Marxist.
Yes.
He was a Marxist. Yeah.
Yes. And he influenced
he was
Dr. DuBois in terms of communism?
Yes.
Yes. So
yeah.
Harvard said no.
Yeah. Well, Harvard wanted the paper, but he didn't want Aptheker.
Uh-huh.
And Shirley was saying, you don't get the papers if you don't get Aptheker.
That's right.
And Aptheker had most of the papers down in New York stored in his place. She had the others in Cairo.
He was the custodian of the papers?
Of the bulk of the papers. Yeah.
Yes. I love his writings, by the
Yeah,
way. But anyway, go ahead.
So, and Howard University couldn't touch him. You know,
Howard or Harvard?
Howard.
Oh, Howard.
Harvard wanted them,
okay,
but didn't want Aptheker.
Okay.
Howard wanted them too, but you can understand Howard gets a huge subsidy from the
federal government. That's
and so
right.
if you brought Herbert Aptheker there, it's bad enough to get the DuBois papers.
Yes.
But to have Herbert Aptheker too, I can understand why Howard was between a rock and a hard place on that.
Yes. Yes.
So I said, well, I'm not interested in Harvard getting. I could care less about Harvard. So I just, what happened was that by that time, people on the campus, Mike Thelwell, the graduate dean, Mort Apley, and a couple other people said, we ought to try to get the DuBois papers. And I said, well, I know Shirley. So the next time I went back and I saw Shirley, I said, I'd like to have the papers at UMass. I said, now the reason why the papers at UMass should come to UMass is because DuBois was born in Great Barrington.
That's right.
If you get the papers at UMass, I'll put them on the 25th floor of the library, and if it weren't for the curvature of the earth, you could almost see Great Barrington. Where he was born. I was selling
that was very good.
I had a lot of respect for Shirley, and I felt that if I want to get the papers, I got to earn them. I got to tell her why it's important for the university to have it. This is Massachusetts. It's a few miles from Great Barrington, where he was born. And I said, and it's a public university. But the other thing, which is not so well known, was that I said, what happens with these papers of these well-known people is that they become a tax write-off. Oh. You value the papers, and then these people, you know, or whatever they give you, they value them at $5 million, and it's a gift to the university. And you know, I said, well, Shirley didn't have any money, so she wasn't rich. So I said to her, I said, why don't we do a negative income tax? I said, what we'll do is the papers are priceless, but say they're worth $1 million. What we do is we give you money for it. Even though they're priceless, there's no way we could give you the right amount for them. So she agreed, and she was happy because, you know, she had very little to live off of. So I made an agreement that I would pay her $150,000, and I would pay her so much a month. If she died before that, then the balance would go to her estate.
Wow.
So she agreed to that, yeah. And so but I also realized that I could not, well, I got the word from Boston that if I used 1 penny of state money on the papers in any manner, that the university budget would suffer, and I would suffer. So I said, okay, so I won't use any university money, which was easier said than done. So what I did is that I met Shirley. I remember I met her on the balcony of her apartment on the Nile River, and I told her we'd like to have the papers at UMass. So we agreed, and with the help of a lot of people on the campus, Mike Thelwell, and Esther Terry, and Mort Apley, and I had a lot of support. Of course, it was only my neck was out there.
Yes, exactly.
But that's okay. I figured, what can they do? I had tenure. I go back to teaching.
Yes.
But I got a lot of threats out of Boston, lots of threats out of Boston for this communist. And I said, we'll take Herbert Aptheker, too. Because I needed somebody who knew DuBois to do the public part. Because somebody had to put those things together in the volumes that I have on my shelf now of the correspondence, the letters, the speeches, his education of black folk.
Yes.
And then somebody had to oversee the catalog. Somebody had to answer these things. So then I found out that I didn't even trust UPS or somebody else to go get them. I sent 2 university trucks down, made sure they kept it on a separate bookkeeping so that when they went down and picked up the papers from Herbert Aptheker in New York and drove it up here, that we charge it off on trust fund money, which was generated.